Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Aaron Eisen. Thank you so much for tuning in. And I am sitting here with one of the greatest podcast producers in history. Hello, Mr. Andrew Perelman. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for the kind intro.
Well deserved. And as a special treat, my friend, you are going to be able to be the first to hear some of the incredible lessons from this week's Torah portion. Are you ready, my friend?
I cannot wait. I'm holding on to my chair.
Well, hold on tight, because here it comes. You ready? Parshas Toldos. In Parshas Toldos, there's so many lessons, but I want to highlight to start one incredible disagreement between your great-grandmother and your great-grandfather. Your great-great-grandmother, your great ancestor, Rebecca, and your great-great-great-grandfather, your ancestor, Isaac, had a major disagreement. And that disagreement is going to shape how we live our lives today. All those thousands of years today impacts today. And here's what happened, my friend. There was a disagreement because they had two children, Yaakov and Esav. Isaac and Rebecca had two children, Yaakov and Esav. And Yaakov was the spiritual one. He was studying and praying and being very, very spiritual. And Esav was a man of the field. He was hunting and doing business and wheeling and dealing. He was out there. And these blessings that Isaac had inherited from Isaac, and Isaac was going to give a blessing to his children. So logically, Isaac reasoned that if Jacob is very, very spiritual, so let's give him the spiritual success. And if Esav is very, very physical, let's give him the blessing for physical success. That was Isaac, and it makes a lot of sense. But Rebecca disagreed. And Rebecca said, no. Jacob needs the blessing for spirituality, and he also needs the blessing for physicality. You know why? Because Jacob needs some physicality, and physicality needs Jacob. What does that mean? Jacob needs physicality. That means if he's going to be spiritual, if he's going to give charity, he has to have some money to give charity. If he's going to welcome guests in his house, he has to have a house. If he's going to study Torah, if he's going to pray, a person like a Jewish mother, right? You have to eat. You got to eat up, eat a little more, right? That's Rebecca. She was like, he's going to be spiritual. He's going to bring spirituality, but he also needs the blessing of physicality. But perhaps even more than Jacob needs physicality, physicality needs Jacob. What does that mean? We need Jacob out in the world. We need Jacob to bring Jewish values into the world, into physical world, into the world of business and medicine and commerce and trade, and whatever Jacob is involved in should bring his values there. So Rebecca disagreed with Isaac. Don't give the blessing to Esav for physicality, because then he's not going to share it the way he was. Again, originally, the plan was that Esav would be supporting Yaakov, and there would be a yin and a yang, and they would be, Jacob would be the spiritual one, and Esav would be the physical one supporting him. But Esav became enthralled with the physicality, and he was into terrible things, murder, rape, stealing. He was just into terrible things. And Rebecca knew this. And Rebecca said, therefore, Jacob is not going to be able to excel at his spirituality because he has no one to help him. So therefore, give both blessings to Jacob. And as a prototype for all disagreements between husbands and wives, guess who won? Well, let's see who won this argument. So Isaac calls Esav one day and he says, Esav, I feel like I'm going to be dying soon. I want you to go. I want to give you a blessing. And he sends Esav out into the field. He says, get me, catch me, hunt for me dinner. And we could explain why you needed dinner before blessing. But he says, go get me food and then come back and I'll bless you. So Esav goes out to the field, and Rebecca heard this conversation between Isaac and Esav. And Rebecca called Yaakov and said, come quickly, come into the house, come quickly, and I'm going to give you food, and you're going to cover your arms with goat skins, because Isaac was blind. He's not going to know that it's not you, and he's going to feel your arms, and he's going to think you're Esav, and he's going to give you the blessing. And that's what happened. Yaakov came in, and Isaac gave him the blessing. And Esau comes in from the field and he says, okay, I have this, I caught for you a catch, and now bless me. And his father realized, oh my gosh, I just gave the blessing away. And he realized everything that happened. He realized, and then he realized that Rebecca was ultimately right. He realizes that because God orchestrated things, that Jacob got the blessing. Therefore, the whole time, his wife was right the whole time. And he said to Esau, your brother stole the blessing, and God Baruch Tiyeh, he should keep the blessing. Isaac didn't say, oh, I feel so bad. It was a mistake. I rescind it. No, he said, he stole the blessing and he should keep the blessing. But then something very, very scary happened. Esau let out a tremendous cry. Remember, this is a blessing for eternity. This is a major, major event. This is a major blessing. Esau let out a tremendous cry, and he said, he screamed. He said, Father, didn't you leave any blessing for me? Is there no blessing for me? And then Isaac said something very scary. He said, you do have a blessing. You have a blessing of physicality. But I thought Jacob has a blessing of physicality. So listen to this. Jacob has the blessing of physicality when it's a receptacle for their spirituality. When Jacob is being so spiritual, then he needs a receptacle for his spirituality in this world, and that's when he's successful physically. He has money and honor and prestige and connections. Why? Because he's using them to propagate, to spread spirituality. When he's being honest and kind and generous and giving and loving and accepting, so then he needs a vessel to hold all his spirituality, to operate in this world. He needs a physical existence. But if Jacob is not being spiritual, he doesn't need physicality. And physicality doesn't need Jacob. If Jacob is not going to be honest in business and not going to bring spirituality into the work world, so then he loses the physicality. Right? I'll give you an example. Like, the president of the United States has an awesome stretch limo. The driver of the stretch limo is really cool because he gets to drive this stretch limo, but only if the president is in the car. He can't just go on a joyride to 7-Eleven or to some clubs and, hey, because it's only your car because you're driving the president. So Jacob only earns physicality if it's a receptacle for spirituality. And that is a incredibly important lesson for us throughout history. If we want to be successful in our careers, if we want to be successful in our worlds, we put so much time and effort into being successful in our careers, making money and being, surviving in this world. The secret to success and survival is to bring our values into the work world, to bring our values into our career. When someone tells our boss, who's like very important and is in charge of our promotions, says to us, I think you should do this. That's a little bit sketchy, a little bit not so kosher, maybe a little bit gray area. You say, no. I'm only here because I'm bringing spirituality into the world. For me to cut corners or be dishonest, it would be a complete. I would be voiding everything that I'm doing. My whole purpose for existence. We want to celebrate Shabbat, but I have an important report to write. If we're not celebrating Shabbat, which infuses us with spirituality, so we can bring that into the work world, we're sabotaging our physical efforts. It's somewhat counterintuitive. You mean if I work less, I'll be more successful? Yes. If you work less, you'll be more successful because you will be using the physicality for what it was meant for. You can't cut corners. The whole purpose of this physicality was in order to be a receptacle for the spirituality. And that's how we fight. That's how Jews fight. The Jews fight by being overly kind, overly giving, overly generous. The Israeli army exists. There's a physical warfare, and there's, but that's only for defense. The true way a Jew fights is by being kind and generous and caring, because that's how we merit. The more kind, the more generous, the more we represent God, the more we inherit this world. Because that's what the world is for, my friend. The whole purpose of the world is in order to manifest God. God didn't need us, right? He gave us life in order to be in this world, to bring him into this world, so that we can choose our free will to bring the infinite into this world. If we're not doing that, so then have a nice day. Then Asa is just as good, right? The energy, the hedonistic energy of Asa is, if you're not, and in a way, maybe even better, because at least it's not, we're not Sabbath. The purpose of the world is to bring spirituality, and we're wasting that opportunity. So let's learn that lesson. I'll tell you an amazing story. When I was in the University of Michigan, and we had Shabbat dinner. So I was a rabbi there, and we would host Shabbat dinner. We had maybe 50, 60 people for Shabbat dinner, and then we'd have a class after Shabbat dinner. And typically, only 5 or 10 students would stay for the class. Most people left after Shabbat dinner. So one time, we finished Shabbat dinner, and 40 kids get up to go, and 5 or 10 are staying, and suddenly the door opens. And in walks 15 or 20 Muslim students, pro-Palestinian Muslim students from the activists on campus. And you saw the eyes of this is very unusual. The eyes of the 40 kids that got up to leave, they all sat down. And I forgot to tell you, the name of the class was "Who's Jerusalem?" ? Like who gets Jerusalem? So you saw these 40 guys go, I'm not going anywhere. I want to see the rabbi get out of this one, right? So there was a packed room of maybe 50 Jewish students, maybe 20, 25 Muslim students, and they're waiting for fireworks. Like, oh my gosh, the topic is who's Jerusalem, and there's going to be yelling and fighting, and it's going to be awesome, right? Maybe the cops are going to come. They're waiting for some action. Not a sound. The entire talk, not a sound. At the end, the rabbi, wasn't me, it was my boss, Rabbi Abraham Jacobowitz, my first job in Michigan. Not a sound the entire time. At the end, he got a standing ovation, and they went over to him, these Muslim students, and said, Rabbi, in your view of Jerusalem, you come to my house, I'll come to your house, total peace. Why? Because he spoke about this idea that the ultimate way that we earn this world, the ultimate way we earn Jerusalem, the way we fight for Israel is by being kind and caring. And again, Israel has to defend itself against its attackers, certainly in a physical sense. But the ultimate, our offensive is to be kind and caring and loving, because that's what the world is for, Andrew, my friend. That's what the whole purpose is. The whole purpose is to be a receptacle to spirituality. So the more spirituality we have, the more receptacle we need. Right, the more, like, if somebody gives you $1 million, you need one bank. If you have $1 billion, you need a bigger bank. Right, you need more resources to hold that money. So the more spiritual we are, the more we merit physicality. And just as an aside, of course, that's the secret to happiness, because I'm expressing my whole self. I'm becoming my whole self. That is who I am. I'm not just a body. We sometimes get so caught up in money. I have $1 million. Okay, but I need to make $2 million. I need $4 million, $8 million. And then it's all about money. And it's like, what? Like, who cares? And then it's just a game. It's just a silly game. And we're not expressing our true self. True happiness, my friend, is when we're using the physical world to fill it with spirituality, to spread spirituality. And that's ultimately how we unite our entire world. I want to tell you about my high school friend. I had a friend in high school. I'm not going to say his last name. His name is Yehuda. Anyone who went to high school with me, you definitely know who I'm talking about. Yehuda was a rock star. He's still a rock star. Thank God he's still alive. I want to tell you about Yehuda. Yehuda was a straight A student. He was like the perfect person. And he was, he'd get up at 6 a.m. he'd go to sleep at 10 p.m. on time and straight A's. He actually read the Torah and he would never make a mistake. He was like the perfect person. Now, we respected him. We loved him. We cared about him. Maybe we resented him a little bit, but he was in our class and he sort of set like when he woke up at 6, so maybe we woke up at 8. When he went to sleep at 10, maybe we went to sleep at 12. If he got an A, we got maybe a B or a C, right? So he sort of set the tone. So here's my question, Andrew, for you. Imagine one day Yehuda stops being so good and he just, he wakes up at 12 and he starts smoking weed and, maybe a little cocaine and he's binging on Netflix. And how would that make us feel?
Horribly. I mean, it's like, what then do you do? Your moral compass has gone awry.
Beautiful. Absolutely perfect. Exactly. It's like, whoa, what hope is there for me? You were sort of our prototype. We were sort of reaching, we were following you, and you crash and burn. What is that? What is a hope for me? And that is really the role of the Jew in this world, to be the prototype of what a person should be, to remind the world that we are a piece of the infinite, to remind every human being that they are, every 7.8 billion of us are a piece of the infinite. We are the Yehudas of the world, right? And we're supposed to be showing people that they are awesome. And when we're not doing that, it could be a form of anti-Semitism. Like, whoa, perhaps that's where some anti-Semitism comes from. That like, whoa, like you're, maybe if it's even subconscious, like you're supposed to be showing us that I am awesome. And if you're not, I feel like I don't even know what to do. Like, who am I? Our job is to show the world that they are a piece of God through our actions. I often say to the students, really we should go on the subway and hand out flyers and tell people that they're awesome. Say, you are a piece of God, and so are you, and so are you, and so are you. Maybe a big sign that says you are a piece of the infinite. But that's the easy way. It's easy to go on the subway and hand out flyers and hold up a sign. It's more difficult to live a life where we personify that, where we exude spirituality. To live our life where people see us and they say, whoa, the Yehuda in the world. We're like, wow, if he can get an A, I bet I could get a B or a C. If he can get up at 6, I bet I can get up at 7. That's doable. If this person is so generous, maybe I can't be as generous, but I could be pretty generous. If this guy is so welcoming and kind and smiley and positive and serene and relaxed and peaceful, maybe I can taste some of that. That's what our job is. And if we're waking up at 12 and, or so to speak, we're not living it, we're not loving it, we're not representing. We're God's PR team. If we're not representing appropriately, so then that could be a form of a source of anti-Semitism. We need you Jews, right? Maybe they don't say that word, but there's a feeling. We need you to steer the way. We need you to guide us. So that, my friend, is one lesson that I wanted to throw at you from this week's Torah portion. Do you have time for another quick idea?
Yeah, totally.
So that is the paramount lesson, that to increase our receptacle, and then the more spirituality we need to hold, the more physicality we're given to hold it. So that's the first idea. Another idea I just wanted to highlight is in a separate veneer, in a separate angle. Isaac and Rebecca. So right at the beginning of the Torah portion, Rebecca is born. Rebecca is they're married, and unfortunately, Rebecca is barren. Now, when it introduces Rebecca, it says where she's from. It says her father, it says her brother, and it says her land. And the question is, we know this already. Why would the Torah repeat that Rebecca comes from a very, very evil father, an evil brother, an evil land? Why would we need to know that? Why do we need to be reminded now, that she comes from an evil land? And the commentators explain that we're coming to show the greatness of Rebecca, that even though she comes from an evil land, she was still righteous and she merited to be our foremother. But then the question is, in the next verse, it says that she was barren, and Isaac and Rebecca both prayed, and God answered Isaac's prayer. So it's hard to understand why would, if we just said that Rebecca was exceedingly great because she came from such dark, such troubled past. So then why was Isaac answered over her barrenness, the fact that she was barren? Why was Isaac answered instead of Rebecca? Why was Isaac answered first? If Rebecca had sort of, remember, Isaac came, he was the son of Abraham, who was like such a huge personality. He introduced monotheism into the world, and he was wealthy and well connected. And why was Isaac answered before Rebecca if she came from a darker past and she still became great, and he came from a great past?
I honestly don't know. The obvious answer would just be because he's always been on the right path, so to speak. But right, like, shouldn't someone who's still choosing to do this righteous act be rewarded, or at least be rewarded the same as the person who's already doing it?
Right. Okay. 100%. So further, it's not reward; it's just answered. It's answered. Okay. So it has to do with prayer. So let's jump right in. But you're making the question stronger, and you're 100% right. It's hard to understand. So I want to share. I heard this from a podcast from Rabbi Yaakov Wolbe about his grandfather, Rabbi Shlomo Wolbe, who was actually a friend of my grandfather in Berlin, Germany. So that's a fun fact. But here's the answer. Rabbi Wolbe says as follows, that the secret to prayer is humility. When I'm asking God for something, when I'm saying, God, please give me health and wealth and success, I'm humbling myself. I'm humbling myself, and I'm saying, I'm powerless. I can't do this on my own. I can't do anything by myself. I need God with me. So I'm going to work. I say, God, please help me. I'm being humble. I'm admitting that I need God. And my kids, are waking up, right? When I say, God, please give them a safe day. Please make them be safe. Make them find, know the answers in school. That my kids do well and have friends, right? So I'm being humble, and I'm saying, God, I need your help. The secret to prayer is being humble. Isaac was more humble because of where he came from. Since he came from higher up, since he had to humble himself to a greater level. And because he humbled himself to a greater level, so therefore he merited that, he merited to be answered first. So the answer came from him because he had a longer way to go to humble himself. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, it is.
And we see that
he was more connected with the material world than she was, is what you're saying?
Well, not only, it's a good point, not only the material world, but also the spiritual world. Sometimes if you're the son of this great rabbi, this great, even spiritual legend, it's like, hey, I'm pretty good.
Right.
You know who I am? You know who my father is? And perhaps it could lead to a person to become complacent, and sometimes we pray more when we are more desperate, right? So we've all had that, like, there's no atheists in the foxholes, or you're on a plane and there's a lot of turbulence, and you're like, God, please help me, right? So when you're feeling good, and it's a sunny Sunday afternoon, and you're playing softball with your friends, drinking beer, you're not going to say, God, please make me be healthy, because I'm good. It's good. I got this. Thank you very much. But when you're in trouble, so Rebecca sort of was in trouble. Like, she came from a dark past, and therefore she was more natural from her to humble herself. But Isaac came from such a illustrious past, so therefore it took a little bit more for him to humble himself. And I just want to end with also fast forward into the blessing. It says when Isaac blessed Jacob, it says the blessing starts with the yitain, and God will give. it didn't say it's a beginning of the blessing. Why does the blessing start with and? It should be God should give you. Why, right? Every letter that's extra in the Torah, or every letter in the Torah can be mined for meaning. So Rashi explains, what does it mean? And God will give you. God will give you means He'll give you, and then when it runs out, He'll give you again. And when it runs out, gives you again. But the question is, why don't you just give us enough for the first time? Why do you want it to run out? And the answer is because God wants to hear from us. He wants us to humble Himself. Why is business going bad? Because God wants to hear from you. Why did you stub your toe? Why did you have a health scare? Why are you having a hard time finding a marriage partner or children or a job or a report or whatever challenges we have? Is because God is saying, I'm going to give you, but I want to be a part of your life. I want to have a relationship with you. So V'yitin, it says, and He'll give you when you talk to Him. It's there. You just have to bring Him into your life, because the whole purpose of your life, the whole purpose of your physical experience is to be a receptacle to the spiritual. So just to review, the first lesson we learned is that we got to bring physicality, spirituality into our physical world. That's how we have career success. But that's not enough just to have the career success. But we need to constantly be in touch with God and ask God for things and humble ourselves. And that's what we merit, the ultimate reward and true happiness, because we have married our body and our soul together, and maximizing both. Our soul is happy, our body's happy, we're happy, and that's the key to physical and spiritual success and really world unity. Thank you so much, Andrew.
Of course, that was a great episode.
Thank God. This is a beautiful Torah portion, and God should give us the ability to present it to the world. If anybody has any questions about this episode or anything about Judaism or life, I'm happy to discuss. Don't know all the answers, but I'm happy to discuss. My email is rabbiE@meor.org. Feel free to reach out anytime, 24/6. And have a beautiful Shabbat, my friends.